Ireland versus New Zealand has provided some epic battles over the last 10 years. And well, this wasn't one of them. It was a bit of a scrappy affair. Both teams really struggled with their lineouts, certainly in the first half, which meant there was not a great deal of flow, not a great deal of phase play. It just couldn't get started. Add to that a ton of injuries as well. Injuries, HIAs. There were technical issues with the TMO being put up on the big screen, lots of TMO interventions as well, and it just led to a very stop-start affair, particularly in the first half. But it did grow, and I've got to say that like the kindest thing I can say about this game really was it was a slow burner. It was a slow burner. It got there in the end, and there was some good rugby played in the second half. But overall, for what this fixture's provided in recent years, this was a bit of a letdown at the start of the autumn internationals here. However, they did sell out Soldier Field in Chicago, an incredible venue for a game like this. I question the atmosphere a little bit as well, aside from a few renditions of Fields of Athenry. It felt a little bit sterile, potentially. It's hard to tell when you're not in the stadium yourself, but just across the TV, it did feel a bit like that. And this game got off to a really strange start with the Ty Burn yellow card on review. And this was such a strange incident because as soon as it happened, I was like, Bowden Barrett did not want that ball. Absolutely, he was running an empty line. He definitely didn't want the ball. It was Cam Roygard who gave it to him because I think he didn't have any other option, to be honest. Ty Burns certainly wasn't expecting it as he was stood bolt upright in front of him, and he just kind of reflex wise just braced and put his arms across his in front of him. His shoulder collided with Bowden Barrett's head, and he was sent off for a yellow card on review. And for me, I'm not. I mean, by the letter of the law, you have to probably yellow card it because he was always upright and all these things. But for me, it was just a weird incident. Bowden Barrett wasn't hurt. I would have gone penalty, to be honest. When this then got upgraded to a red card, I was stunned. Again, probably letter of the law because of the way the law's written. You could probably say, okay, I agree, but I think in recent years, the last 12, 18 months, we're seeing much more common sense applied in these scenarios. And I don't think any common sense was applied for this one. So poor Ty Burn only got 3 minutes of rugby in this game, and Ireland definitely missed him. His breakdown threat would have been crucial later on in the game, I'm sure. Yeah, it was a shocker, an absolute shocker. But in the same move, Scott Barrett, the Kiwi captain, also went off injured. He'd carried the ball several times already, even only in the first couple of minutes, and he got, I think it was a cut, like a nasty gash on his leg, which I mean, it must have been quite bad if he wasn't going to come back on. Early play was really dominated, I would say, by the Nines with their excellent, and I mean really excellent kicking long for touch, making 40, 50 metres each time. Both Gibson Park and Cam Roygard were excellent with the boot all day. Ireland got a penalty for crossing. I think it was Caleb Clark went in behind Quinn Tupai. A long penalty for Crowley to put Ireland 3-0 up after 7 minutes. So they were managing the yellow card really well. They managed to sort of just basically win the territory battle, stay down there, and they were doing okay. They were sort of absorbing the Kiwi attacks and doing great. It was after 10 minutes that that yellow card, as I said, got upgraded to a 20-minute red. So, it didn't affect the whole game as such. And I think this is a good example, certainly, of where a 20-minute red card is a good thing because there is no way on earth, going back to what I said before, that if that had been Ireland down to 14 for the rest of the game, that would have just been an absolute travesty. Stuart McCloskey in at 12 was having a big, big game. And I mean big in terms of physicality. He was up and down, dead straight. He got a carry at the tail of the line out, stepping back inside on a weak shoulder of Cody Taylor. Now, Cody Taylor is such a technically gifted athlete. Like, he just gets stuff right and he's hard nosed and tough as well. So you don't see him get bounced over like McCloskey did to him almost ever. That was a major thing. Also in the opening 20 minutes, Geordie Barrett got injured and this one looked really nasty. And you can kind of tell when the player knows. Well, we thought, because he actually was on the ground. You could see his face grimace, but he also just disregarded the ball, like he just threw it on the floor, knocked it forward because his leg was bent under him in a very nasty position following a tackle by James Ryan. It might have just been shock initially because he bounced back up, got it strapped, and tried to carry on, but he didn't last long. He was off shortly afterwards. 2 out of the 3 Barretts off the pitch, and Ireland seemed to want to get the other one off as well. Bowden was the target of some really heavy tackling at various points in the game. We'll go on to that later. Ty Furlong got over for a try on 16 minutes. Don't forget, Ireland played most of this game down with 14 players. They kicked to the corner when they had another kickable penalty. Not just points on the board, that would be, but a minute off the clock when they're down to 14 men. But they went for the try and they got it. Ty Furlong hitting a great short line off Jamison Gibson Park to sort of burrow over. Surveyor, though, actually, the Kiwis came back really well here. It was, God, I'm going to forget his name, the centre that came on. It's gone. I'm not going to get it. Anyway, he came on and he really added a bit of zip to the Kiwis. And it was a bounce outside by him that got Will Jordan through a gap. And he looked like he might score, but Josh van der Fleer just got him. But there was some brilliant handling by the Kiwi forwards. De Groot, then Lord, and then Parker to put Sevilla triumphantly over in the corner in 10-7 after 20 minutes. And that, honestly, I write notes. Obviously, I don't remember everything, so I write notes throughout the game, and I've only got one thing for the next 20 minutes, and that was New Zealand got a 5 metre line out, which Ireland went up and stole, and it was again another great Jamison Gibson Park. But this kind of tells the story about this phase of the game. There was not much happening. Neither line out was functioning. I think they almost were like 0 out of 3 or 4 each from most line outs. They certainly didn't get any clean ball. And it was just a stop-start affair. Lots of TMO interventions, lots of with the injuries and stuff like that. And yeah, there was lots going on, but none of it was rugby. None of it was flowing rugby. So a little bit disappointing in that first half. Um, 45 minutes, Ardi Surveyor won a great turnover. But if you look at the replay, Lackey, the number 8, actually took out James Lowe, who was going to be Ireland's first clearer. Lowe didn't make a fuss about it at all. And that's great play by Lackey. I'm certainly not digging him out for it. These are the little things sometimes where you get an advantage and you get away with it. And it happens all the time in rugby. Jack Crowley missed a long range penalty shortly afterwards, but nailed one straight after that for 13-7. And Ireland were just, again, like the game wasn't really to and flowing. It wasn't like one team had loads of pressure and then the other had a load of pressure. Ireland were just gradually holding on. Not holding on, they were just holding the advantage, I would say. It didn't look like New Zealand were bringing much to the party, and it just looked like Ireland might go on to squeeze this game out and get it home. But there was a brilliant bit of play from Bowden Barrett to Caleb Clark from following that penalty, the kickoff. I don't think I've ever seen a better kickoff. He kicked it right into like the 5 metre square, 10 metres out and sort of 5 metres from the touchline. Caleb Clark got up there and won it, and it was just to get the Kiwis back in the game. I think they recognised that they needed the ball in their hands a little bit, and that just gave them a little bit of confidence. I think maybe 60, but they were still behind. 60 minutes now, 61 minutes. There was a huge Gary Ringrose tackle on Bowden Barrett. Initially, that first viewing, it looked bad. It looked like, oh my God, he's whacked him there, and it looked high as well. But on the replay, you can see the whiplash came because he hit the ball, and that so often just whacks the player back. They sort of rebound back out of it. Bowden Barrett got a bit of a whiplash injury, but he was, again, fine to carry on. I thought Bowden Barrett actually played pretty well all day. Who also played well were both the loose ads. De Groot had a decent day in the scrum up against Ty Furlong, and Tamatai Williams also did great in the scrum when he came on against Finlay Beelum. And it was Williams who got over from the try from a quick tap move. Cody Taylor took the ball up and it looked like he was just going to drive low, but lifted it to Satiti, who almost scored himself. He sliced through a little gap, but Tamatai Williams picked it up from that ruck and just drove over. The Kiwis ahead for the first time in the game at 14-13. And there was a really funny moment afterwards, almost directly afterwards. I think it was right from the kickoff, actually. Ian Henderson, who was on for Ty Byrne very early in the game, obviously, he was stood at guard, and somebody came in to try and move him out the way, and he just went no, 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 and pointed at the scrum half, so like basically saying I'm going to charge that down, and then he did, which really made me laugh. Nothing came of that, but Satiti did get over for a try for New Zealand shortly afterwards, and now what was just a really tight game that Ireland seemed to just have the grip of. Now they're suddenly 8 points adrift, only 13 minutes to play, and it's really going away from them. They didn't really mount too much of a challenge to get back in the game. They had a little bit of territory, a little bit of possession, but Cam Roigard, who I thought was excellent all day, he played a little bit within himself. He wasn't looking for breaks all the time, but his basics, his passing, his kicking, and just his physical as well are outstanding. And he stepped inside three players off of a scrum to get the score 26-13, and that was the end of the game. New Zealand almost scored another corker actually with the final play, but there was a rightly called, rightly adjudicated forward pass in that movement. I've already mentioned some of the players that I thought did well. De Groot, Tamatar Williams, their scrum was great. Cam Roigard, McCloskey, brilliant for Ireland. I thought very, very strong performance by him. Also, I thought Jamie Osborne, he was far from perfect, but I thought he had some really good moments, looked very lively. And in particular, there was a great tackle on Caleb Clark early on when he just scythed him down when it looked like Clark might be getting away. Interesting start this to the Autumn International. So both these teams, neither of these sides are going to be happy with their performance. I'm sure of that. There's going to be plenty of work-ons here. Um, but the Kiwis get the win, as they often do. I mean, they just had those moments of quality. I'm just thinking back through the tries now. Yeah, they were all pretty good tries. You know, they had those times where they just cut Ireland apart, and Ireland, for them, they couldn't really get into their phase play. They never really built a huge amount of pressure where it looked like they were going to score too often. That's the way it goes. Okay, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Any players I've missed that you thought played really well? Any changes that you think might happen next weekend? Any tactical bits that I missed that you think were really important in this game? As I say, let me know in the comments and I'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there if you don't mind. It helps other great rugby fans just like you find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and don't forget to get out and play.